Curious about lip filler? Whether you want a subtle pout or bold plump, Juvederm lip fillers can give you a customized lip look. Juvederm Volbella XC and Juvederm Ultra XC can last up to a full year with optimal treatment, giving your lips added volume for smooth, natural-looking, and long-lasting results. Whether you're concerned about your thin lips or simply want fuller lips, ask about Juvederm lip fillers at your next appointment with your licensed specialist. And download the Ally app, that's ALLE, the official loyalty program of Juvederm, to save on treatments. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit Juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
This is a special bonus episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
For many 80s moviegoers, the Friday the 13th franchise seemed to have reached its peak with the fourth installment, The Final Chapter, where Jason Voorhees was apparently killed off for good. The fifth film, A New Beginning, attempted to take the series in a fresh direction, but ended up disappointing fans. Enter Tom McLoughlin, an up-and-coming writer and director who is tasked with revitalizing the franchise and its iconic slasher. In his story, Tommy Jarvis digs up Jason's grave intending to cremate his remains and put an end to his own lingering trauma. However, instead of ending Jason's reign of terror, a bolt of lightning strikes the corpse, resurrecting him in a manner reminiscent of Frankenstein. So unload the camp bus, keep the kids in their cabins, and don't forget to say your prayers as Charlie Cotter, Laramy Wells, and I discuss Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives from 1986 on this special bonus episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast.
They thought the nightmare was dead and buried. They were wrong. Jason lives. Happy Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th, Part 6. Jason Lives. Rated R.
I'm Tim Williams, the mastermind behind the mic at the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Joining me on each epic episode is a guest co-host who's as crazy about 80s flicks as they are about wearing parachute pants and solving Rubik's Cubes. We're diving into nostalgic treasures we saw at the local theater, rented on VHS tapes, or discovered on cable TV. From blockbusters that make you say,
I feel the need for speed.
To hidden gems that'll have you screaming,
They're here.
It's a blast to relive these old memories and share our thoughts on what made these movies so special. We reminisce about our first time watch experiences, share our favorite scenes, and even discover fascinating behind the scenes tales about the cast and crew along the way. Haven't hit that subscribe button yet? What are you waiting for?
Come on, do it!
On Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. And hey, while you're at it, be a pal and drop us a written review along with a 5-star rating to tell us what you think about us.
The sportos, motorheads, geeks, sluts, bloods, wastoids, dweebies, they all adore him. They think he's a righteous dude.
Take a day off and come hang out with us on social media. Just search 80s Flick Flashback on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. And don't forget to bookmark 80sflickflashback.com for more gnarly content.
Get out of town. I didn't know you did anything creative.
Want to crank it all the way up to 11? Become a supporter on buymeacoffee.com for only $5 a month.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Click the link in our episode show notes, and while you're there, soak up the extra trivia and fun stuff that didn't make it into today's show. Thanks again for tuning in. Now, let's get right into today's episode.
Welcome to the party, pal.
All right, welcome in, everybody. So glad to have you back on this special episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. Of course, if there's a Friday the 13th, we're going to cover one of these movies until we run out of them, and we're getting almost there as we pass the halfway mark of the 80s of 1986.
We're halfway through. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So this one's part 6, Jason Lives, which I know Laramy and Charlie have kind of been waiting for us to get to this one because I know this is one that they both like. And so that's why I have them here on this episode. So welcome back to the show, Mr. Charlie Cotter. How you doing, Charlie?
I'm all right, Tim. Got to watch a good Friday the 13th movie for a change. That's always nice.
Yep. What's a broken clock is right twice a day, right? So one of these has to be good eventually, right?
Yep. Eventually one of these movies will be good, and we finally came across the one.
And of course, from Moving Panels, back again, it's Laramy Wells. How you doing, Laramy?
I'm good. You know, some folks sure got a strange idea of entertainment.
We're going to talk about that line. Yeah, good line. All right. Well, I think I know the answer to this question because we've talked about these movies before. But Charlie, when did you see Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives for the first time?
So the first time was probably 10 or so years ago. I was probably a senior in high school or freshman in college, so that just shows my age. But I went to Walmart and bought the box set, and it had 9 at the not at the time, but it was just those specific 9, not the 10th one yet. And so I sat down, and over Halloween in 2014, I think I just sat down all 9 in the month, and there were some stinkers, but this one stood out as just being different. But yeah, 2014 was the first time.
All right, Laramy, when did you see this one on TV for the first time?
Yeah, this is one I definitely saw it as a kid. Which, you know, you go back and you think about it. This is probably the quote unquote most TV friendly of the series.
Right. Yeah. I agree with that.
Because the deaths aren't really that graphic.
Yeah. And most of them are off screen too.
Yeah. Or the kills on screen, but the actual method of killing is just off out of frame or something.
Right. Or very quick cuts, so cutaways. Yeah.
Yeah. So I couldn't tell you exactly how old I was, but I know this was definitely one that I saw on television as a kid, as a child.
Yeah, I know I saw this one a few years ago. I think another podcast I was listening to was going to cover it, and I was like, I don't know if I've ever seen that one. And I think I found the AMC Plus or AMC version because it was on, because during October, they're going to have all of those available on demand. So I remember watching that, and, like I said, it was more of a TV version. I don't remember if I'd seen it before. There were bits and pieces that I thought I kind of remembered from watching as a kid, but that was the first time I think I watched it all the way from beginning to end. So when I put it on the other day to rewatch it, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this one from just a couple of years ago. So it was a fairly recent rewatch for me. But what about you guys? How long has it been since you rewatched it?
Hey, again, I've said this, especially recently, like when you had me on for Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I love this movie, but I don't get to watch it as frequently as I used to or would like, because I do have small children. So it's been, honestly, going with Charlie, I probably last saw this 10 years ago. So
this one has that rewatchability that a lot of people don't. So this one was, preparing for this, I didn't mind watching the whole thing at all. So I just a couple hours ago was my last time.
Gotcha. Had you seen it between a couple hours ago and 2014? Have you watched it a few times between then?
I once or twice. It is
okay.
I definitely get in the Halloween spirit for October, so that's on the list of Halloween movies to watch.
So you just watch this one by itself, or do you feel like you got to watch a few? I know you don't watch the whole series, but like, are there one or two that you're like, I got to watch the first one and the sixth one or something like that?
Oh, yeah, don't say the fifth one.
No.
Yeah. And I think that's why this one has such replayability, is because it's so detached from 5.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's easy to sit there and actually enjoy it. So yeah, it's definitely in my top, I would say 2 or 3 Friday movies. So it definitely is one that I try to watch as much as possible when we get into, spooky season.
Very cool. All right, well, let's jump into story origin and pre-production. I tried to keep this as short as possible, but it was an interesting little story here. So, of course, we mentioned before the previous film in the series, A New Beginning, was a financial success, but disappointing to the series fans and received some of the worst reviews of any film in the series. In order to prevent further alienating the fans and potentially endangering the series, the producers decided to take the series in a new direction, moving it away from what producer Frank Mancuso Jr. called the quote-unquote coarse nature of A New Beginning. To do this, he hired Tom McLoughlin, who had directed a successful independent horror film called One Dark Night, but was also known around Hollywood for shopping around various comedy scripts he had written. That makes sense after watching this. The dichotomy appealed to Mancuso. McLoughlin was given free rein on how he would present the story, with the only condition being that he had to bring Jason back and make him the film's primary villain, which I think he did that pretty well.
Oh yeah, this is the first one of the series in which Jason is like on screen, like main focus, because in the previous films, including the horrible 5, it's a lot of him stalking. And so you might see him in shadow, or you see it from his point of view. And
right.
You don't see Jason an awful lot. This is the first one where Jason's front and center. He is, it is main focus. That's one of the reasons I like it so much.
Yeah. Yeah. And I would say, like, in this one, he's much more of a menacing presence. Like, we'll get into the casting, but who played him had a good stance and like was very brooding. Even just standing still, he was still kind of scary. Like, he didn't have to do much motion. So McLoughlin took the film in the direction of the old Universal monster movies, specifically the 1931 version of Frankenstein, which makes sense of the whole electricity. He also drew from vampire lore to give the weakness of being returned to his home soil. Additionally, McLoughlin disregarded the idea from part 2 that Jason had survived his drowning, presenting him as a supernatural force. This also retconned the ending of the 5th film, explaining that what Tommy saw at the end was just a dream. He also decided to expand the series' thematic scope by incorporating action film elements and postmodern meta humor. For example, when Jason is first encountered in the woods near Crystal Lake, the character named Lisbeth comments that she and Darren should flee because she knows about proper conduct to survive a horror movie. McLoughlin further satirized the series itself when Martin, the gravedigger, comments on Jason's being dug up, saying, "Why'd you have to go and dig up Jason? Some folks sure got a strange idea for entertainment," which is, of course, the line that Larry mentioned, which I thought was so funny. It kind of broke the fourth wall there, too.
I mean, he looks square at the camera.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In addition to Frankenstein, he'd cited his love of Gothic horror, particularly the works of Edgar Allan Poe, and his Catholic upbringing as inspirations for the film. Jason Lives features the series' only explicit references to God, and during the climactic third act, Jason spares a praying girl. A similar scene in which the same girl prays for Tommy while Megan performs CPR, then mouths "thank you" while looking skyward, was deleted from the movie's final cut against McLaughlin's wishes.
No comment.
I got you. All right. I know that Laramy already knows this, but I did not realize that Jason Lives was filmed in Covington, Georgia, which is where Laramy resides. The scenes involving the police department and town were filmed in Covington, while the camp scenes were filmed at Camp Daniel Morgan outside the city limits. In the film, Camp Crystal Lake has been renamed Lake Forest Green. So is there any Forest Green, or anything around there that you recognize?
Oh yeah. No. So actually when I was in college, I was in a class where we were talking about locations and whatnot, and I actually did a project.
Okay.
And so what I did was I took screenshots from the movie, and then I went to those places here in Covington and took, what they look like now.
Right.
Pictures. and all that. So yeah, no, that camp. I want to say that camp's been used in a couple of other movies too, but yeah, that it's all still kind of here. And I will admit the camp is not in Covington. The camp is actually in Rutledge. So
okay,
it's a few couple of counties over. But yeah, of course our famous clock tower that you see in Remember the Titans and Vampire Diaries, In the Heat of the Night, all those shows. That scene when Megan and Tommy flee the police department, which they used the same building that they used in the Heat of the Night for as the police department, which, just FYI, was actually our library at the time. So that's always a fun little thing. But yeah, no. Love the fact that it was filmed here. And yeah, a lot of those little like I said, the camp still stands. That building that was the police department still stands. The cemetery, the part of the cemetery that was an actual cemetery, because some of it was
right, because part was a soundstage,
was a set, but the cemetery still stands, obviously. But yeah, it's exciting. It's one of my favorite things of that. As much as we've had filmed here in Covington, it's one of my favorite things.
Yeah, and being in Boy Scouts growing up, we actually went to the camp. I don't remember a ton about it because this would have been, early elementary school or Cub Scouts. So early elementary school. So I don't remember a ton about it. I just, it looked like all the other woods that I had ever seen growing up. And it didn't bother telling us that this is where they filmed one of the Friday the 13th. So that was probably for the best.
Yeah, sure. They're not going to tell a whole bunch of children.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey kids, tonight we're going to watch a movie that was filmed right here. Do you want to see it? It's called Jason Lives.
I just remembered because I just recently watched this. The second Fear Street movie that actually takes place in a camp. That's the same camp.
Oh, okay. The Fear Street series that was on Netflix.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So you haven't been back there, Charlie, since then to do a little Friday the 13th location sighting?
No, because I had forgotten it was filmed there until this most recent watch, until a couple of days ago. I knew earlier, and then I just forgot about it.
Right.
I haven't been back. I want to now.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up,
a little field trip. Yeah.
Yeah, we only went there once. Again, that I can remember. And we didn't stay very long. It was kind of just like, oh, hey, we might come here for one of our bigger trips. Come check it out. It was a nice camp though.
All right, moving on with the pre-production. McLoughlin wanted to make a different Friday the 13th film, but the producers were unsure. Unlike the previous films, the producers wanted more gore, violence, and murders added to the film. The other movies had to cut it back because it was close to an X. This one, they said it was almost PG-13. They wanted to amp up some of the things. So the original film had 13 killings, but the studio wanted 3 more, making a total of 16. The additional kills included Martin the Gravedigger and the engaged couple on a nighttime picnic. McLoughlin later said that the scene where the man on the picnic realizes he's being spotted by Jason was the scariest moment in the film.
You're missing a couple of kills because there are 18 kills.
There are 18? Okay. Well, that's Wikipedia was wrong then. I'm sorry.
Yeah. You know what? They may not be counting like the nerdy paintballer because you don't see his death, but then they find his body pieces later. So
yeah, true.
They may not be counting that one. I'm trying to think of what other one they may not be counting, but no, there are 18. I can tell you that it's a fact.
Gotcha. Well, I know another one they said they had to make him extend Sissy's death, adding the shots of Jason dragging her to the ground and twisting her head off. Originally, it was filmed. Yeah, she simply pulled out of the cabin window and wasn't seen again until Megan finds her head in the squad car. And then, of course, there were some disagreements. They disagreed. He disagreed with the producers over how the movie should end. In the original script, the movie was supposed to conclude in the graveyard with Martin the Gravedigger meeting Jason's father, Elias. Elias was meant to know that Jason had been resurrected. The studio didn't want to introduce Elias's backstory in the next installment and was concerned about a continuity error. This ending would have fixed a continuity error from A New Beginning, where it was mentioned that Jason was cremated. A later scene from Jason Lives had Tommy asking Sheriff Garris why Jason wasn't cremated, as had been planned, and Garris reveals in that deleted scene that someone paid the city to bury Jason, which they would have assumed was Elias. Now, I didn't think about this when I was watching the movie, but now reading that, was that the last one where the hooded man showed up am I getting that mixed up with some other? Who was the black figure? The black
with the cult. So, but I don't.
Yeah, that was Mike.
Happens.
I thought that was Mike Myers. Yeah.
Was that the Halloween movie where it was okay? I thought I was getting something mixed up. But I was like, there was one movie where there was just like the man in black shows up in a couple of scenes. You think it's going to happen and it doesn't pan out to be anything. Okay.
That was Halloween.
That was Halloween. Okay. Once again, it all blends together. So McLoughlin ended up shooting 3 different endings for the film, but only one was included on the DVD release. In one ending, Jason's mask floats to the surface of Crystal Lake after becoming detached during his struggle with Megan. Another ending shows Deputy Cologne trying to reach the jail cell keys after being locked in by Tommy and Megan. The door to the police station opens and the film ends abruptly, suggesting that Jason managed to escape. But the producers didn't like these endings because they left Jason's survival uncertain. They wanted to be clear that Jason could return for a sequel. As a result, McLoughlin shot the ending used in the film, which shows a close-up of Jason's open, twitching eye. Which the eye scene was, used throughout. Like it was the opening, the little James Bond kind of nod, which always makes me laugh when that part pops up. And then you see it a couple of times in the movie. Of course, his eye popping up when he gets struck by lightning, which I thought was a cool. We'll get into favorite scenes, but I think that one's in my favorite scene.
The close-up of the eye is a little problematic because it's clearly not underwater.
Right.
But
yeah, I'm good with it.
Yeah, I think the decision to get rid of Elias was a movie-saving decision. Even though I'm sure you'll get to later, the numbers might have suggested otherwise. But just I can imagine having a good or decent movie and then just being completely ruined last 30 seconds. Yeah. And I think that's what would have happened. Introduce this whole other character.
There are pieces of it, like the survival camp people and the newlyweds seem kind of out of place. Like it's almost like needing people for Jason to kill. So that's why they're there, which is, of course, why they're there. Because he gets the machete from one of the weekend warriors, which becomes iconic going forward, the machete. I'm still not sure where he got the Rambo knife from. Did I miss that scene? Where did he get somebody's utility belt where he has the survival knife?
I can't remember.
Yeah.
It's not really specified, but like this whole movie, he comes across as like a power line worker. Like he's got the gloves, he's got the like the utility belt, and his look is very strange. And it's so we never really see exactly where Jason gets his little utility belt. There's no cut scene that shows. He just shows up with the gloves and the belt and all the weapons, the throwing knife that he uses at the end. All those. He gets them somewhere, I guess.
And now these messages.
Are you a fan of movies and TV shows inspired by comics? Ready for a podcast that dives deep into the thrilling world of adaptations? Well, look no further. Welcome to Moving Panels, the podcast where we discuss movies and TV shows based on, inspired by, and adapted from the world of comic books. This is your go-to podcast for all things comics on screen. I'm your host, Laramy Wells, and every Monday we explore the dynamic universe where ink meets action. We break down the classics, reveal hidden gems, and uncover the creative process behind your favorite adaptations. Subscribe to Moving Panels now on your favorite podcast platform and join us on this epic journey through the pages of comics and onto the big screen. Remember, new episodes drop every Monday. Don't miss out. Moving Panels, where every panel has a story and every adaptation is a blockbuster. Subscribe today, and I'll see you on the other side of the page.
Hey there, fellow 80s movie aficionados. Are you ready to embark on a nostalgia-filled journey to the greatest era of cinema? Then look no further than the Retro Life for You 80s Movie Podcast. Join us every week as we rewind the VHS tapes, dust off those Betamax classics, and dive headfirst into the neon-soaked, totally tubular world of the 1980s movies. From the Brat Pack to action heroes, we've got it all covered. Breakfast Club, Ghostbusters, E.T. and Indiana Jones, and more. It's like a trip in Doc Brown's time machine, but without the DeLorean. So whether you're a diehard 80s film buff or just curious about the cinematic gems of the past, Retro Life for You is your ticket to the ultimate movie time warp. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Retro Life for You, and we can be found anywhere you listen to your podcast, as well as on our website, www.retrolife4u.com.
Curious about lip filler? Whether you want a subtle pout or bold plump, Juvederm lip fillers can give you a customized lip look. Juvederm Volbella XC and Juvederm Ultra XC can last up to a full year with optimal treatment, giving your lips added volume for smooth, natural-looking and long-lasting results. Whether you're concerned about your thin lips or simply want fuller lips, ask about Juvederm lip fillers at your next appointment with your licensed specialist. And download the Ally app, that's ALLE, the official loyalty program of Juvederm, to save on treatments. For important safety information and to find a licensed specialist, visit Juvederm.com. That's JUVEDERM.com. Not for people with severe allergic reactions, allergies to lidocaine, or the proteins used in Juvederm. Common side effects include injection site redness, swelling, pain, tenderness, firmness, lumps, bumps, bruising, discoloration, or itching. There's a risk of unintentional injection into a blood vessel, which can cause vision abnormalities, blindness, stroke, temporary scabs, or scarring. Talk to a licensed specialist to find out if it's right for you.
Your teen requested a ride, but this time not from you. It's through their Uber teen account. You drive your teenager around, a lot, to their friend Jacob's house, their other friend Jake's house, to James's, to Jaden's, to Jalen's, to...
Mom? This is Jake's house, not Jacob's.
Now with an Uber teen account, your teen can request a ride under your supervision. They'll ride with a highly rated driver, and with live trip tracking, you'll follow along the whole ride to their friends' houses that all sound the same. Add your teen to your Uber account today. See app for details.
Bye, Mom.
All right, well, cool. Let's jump into casting. The decision to retcon the events of Part 5 resulted in many members of that film's cast whose characters had survived having their contracts returned for a sequel were terminated. At one point in time, when Jason Lives was being considered as a direct sequel to A New Beginning rather than the final chapter, the surviving characters Pam and Reggie from A New Beginning were to have died in the film's opening moments. In keeping with the series tradition, the role of Jason was given to a stuntman, Dan Bradley. After the first day of filming, Mancuso decided that he disliked Bradley's appearance on screen as Jason. Although the scenes that Bradley filmed in which Jason kills the paintball-playing executives were kept in the completed picture, the rest of Jason's scenes were performed by C.J. Graham, an area restaurant manager and former soldier. So there was a story, but it was kind of not, it didn't have a correct citation or whatever, that basically C.J. Graham at his restaurant, they would do like horror nights where people would tell... There was like this ghost story that was being told, and he would dress up as like the menacing killer and come in. And one of the producers or somebody that worked on the movie had seen him in that production and was like, "Oh, you should come, play Jason in our movie." Who knows if that's real or not, but it seems good. But he was a former soldier, which I think why he has that commanding presence on screen. Him just standing still and the way he moves was very, just seemed more forceful.
Yeah, and of course he was a very iconic Jason. But again, the first time we really got to see Jason, and of course he would do it before Kane Hodder would step in the very next movie and kind of make it his role. Probably being the only actor to actually be known as Jason. But yeah, this guy was really good. I liked his subtle movements. I do get a kick out of him doing the little dog head tilt in that one scene where he's. I love that this Jason, although it's putting Jason essentially into a comedy. But Jason's not the comedic part, but yet I love that he still has comedic elements. Like after he kills the first paintballer, he lifts up the machete to look at it and then realizes there's an arm attached to it. Yeah. And it's almost like he's looking at it like, "Oh, hey, didn't realize I did that." So I kind of get a kick out of that. They do bring a little bit of humor even to Jason without making Jason silly.
Right. Yeah. He definitely stays in character amongst all the other hijinks around him, for lack of a better term.
I like this Jason a lot because I remember in Part 2, the guy who plays him is like 5'10", like
right,
8 pounds. Like he's not small, but he's not big and scary. And then you get this, 6'3", 250 guy coming to play Jason, and you're like, okay, on top of being undead, now there's obviously he's bigger, stronger, he's faster than the other Jasons, so like his demeanor and characterization of Jason was, Kane Hodder does an amazing job, but this is the first time we see that mobile, that super strong Jason, and so I think he kills it. No pun intended.
Haha.
All right, well, moving on to Tommy. So John Shepherd was asked to reprise his role as Tommy Jarvis from the previous film, but Shepherd, being a born-again Christian, had reservations about returning to the series based on the atmosphere around A New Beginning, but was attracted to Jason Lives because of the scene in which the praying girl is spared by Jason. He ultimately decided to retire from acting, though, and went to seminary. Tom Matthews, who would take over the mantle for Tommy Jarvis, was chosen for his work in the horror comedy Return of the Living Dead, playing Freddy, although McLoughlin himself was unaware of Matthews' horror credentials until after shooting began. But that's pretty much all he's known for, is this and Return of the Living Dead. So there's nothing else really to talk about in his filmography. But Tommy Jarvis has been played by 3 different people so far in this.
Yeah, but he's in everybody's pictures. Like, of course, everybody knows Corey Feldman, but that's little kid Tommy. This is the Tommy Jarvis everybody's thinking of. I think good Tommy. He looks the part. The whole movie he makes sound decisions and whatnot. but yeah, he's the guy that everybody thinks of when you say Tommy Jarvis.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
That, and people try to forget the 5th one.
Yeah, for good reason.
Yeah.
So then we got Jennifer Cook as Megan. Although Mancuso retained control over the film's casting, he deferred to McLaughlin's judgment. The only caveat was that the final girl had to be a quote-unquote very attractive blonde. To fulfill this requirement, McLoughlin chose Jennifer Cook based on her performance on the TV series V. Just a side note, the role of Hawes, Tommy's would-be sidekick who dies within the first 5 minutes of the movie, was given to another television veteran, Ron Palillo, famous for the role of Horseshack and Welcome Back, Cotter. Yeah, it was fun to see him, and I was kind of bummed that he died so early in the movie. I would have liked to have seen more of him in the movie. But yeah, Jennifer Cook retired from acting after making this movie. So she did V, she made this movie, and then she was done.
Well, would you say that not having more of Horseshack in this movie ripped your heart out? Thank you. I'll be here all week.
All right, I'm going to skip over David Kagan as Sheriff Mike Garris because he didn't really do much either, but he is referred to later in the casting. But then we got Carrie Noonan as Paula. She's best known for her role in this. Her only starring role was in the Twilight Zone episode, A Message for Charity. She also appeared in episodes of Taxi, The Facts of Life, Family Ties, Mr. Belvedere, St. Elsewhere, and Murder, She Wrote. She later went on to audition for a film entitled Birthday Bash, in which serial killer Ethan goes against a girl with telekinetic powers. While auditioning, she asked the producers, "Hey, is this Friday the 13th? Because I was already in one of those." She was correct. Birthday Bash was the fake working title for Friday the 13th, The New Blood, and Ethan was a pseudonym given to Jason in the scripts in order to protect the film from the press during pre-production.
Huh. Well, there you go. This movie had a fake title while they were filming it too. It was I forgot it, but it was a David Bowie song.
Yeah, I did read that. I don't remember. I didn't write it down. Yeah.
Album. It's Aladdin Sane.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, and you actually see the album laying on the on the table during one of the scenes.
All right, and then moving right along, we're going to run through these pretty quick. Renee Jones as Sissy Baker. She's known primarily for her roles in soap operas in the 80s and 90s. Then you had Tom Fridley as Court Andrews. He was also in The Karate Kid, Iron Eagle, and Face Off in 1997. I don't talk much about them because, number one, they're barely in the movie, and two, they didn't do much else. Darcy DeMoss as Nikki Parsley. She was also in Can't Buy Me Love in 87 and Teen Witch in 89. Vincent Gastafaro as Deputy Rick Colon. He is known for playing the recurring role of Sergeant Vincent Agnostini in the American Police TV series NYPD Blue. He also guest starred in TV programs including Home Improvement, Becker, What's Happening Now, Hardcastle and McCormick, CSI New York, Melrose Place, Hunter, and The West Wing. And I have 2 people left. So, of course, the person that jumped out to me the most when I first saw him was Tony Goldwyn as Darren in the car at the beginning.
In his debut.
Yes. His breakthrough role as Carl in the fantasy thriller Ghost was just 4 years after this. He also voiced the main character in Disney's animated film Tarzan in 1999 and portrayed Colonel Bagley in The Last Samurai in 2003. He was also in the horror movie The Last House on the Left, 2009. He's probably best known for playing President Fitzgerald Grant III in the ABC legal and political drama Scandal from 2012 to 2018. He's most recently known as the Manhattan District Attorney Nicholas Baxter on Law and Order. But yeah,
it amazes me that this is his first film, considering he comes from Hollywood royalty.
Yeah, he does. So, but gotta start somewhere. I mean, how many other stars made their early roles? And so Charlie Sheen was in one. Of course, Kevin Bacon, most famous.
Yeah.
Jennifer Aniston, Johnny Depp. Yeah. So
Jennifer Aniston.
Yeah. Paying their dues.
And then also, how funny is it that he's in a Paramount movie, not an MGM movie?
He picked a good one to debut in. Could have been in 5.
True.
It's true. Or he could have been in 7. Like this is a nice little palate cleanser between those 2 horrible movies.
Yeah.
Yep. And then even though Nicholas isn't here, I have that guy in this one, and that's Alan Blumenfeld, who I'd never know that was his name, but he's one of the Weekend Warriors, the heavier set guy. You may have seen him in movies like War Games and Inner Space, as well as TV shows like Different Strokes, Who's the Boss, Cheers, Hill Street Blues, Moonlighting, Growing Pains, Hunter, and Fame. But I mentioned that because actually Nicholas recognized him from Inner Space because he just he's like a brief cameo in that one. He's like, that's that guy. I've seen a bunch of stuff. So when he popped up on this one, I was like, that guy is back. So other cast members were actors who McLoughlin had directed before, such as David Kagan, who played the sheriff. He was also the acting teacher for female lead Jennifer Cook. The reason he hasn't been in anything else is because he actually runs his own acting studio. So, and then McLaughlin's own family, Jason's first female victim in the film, Elizabeth, was played by his wife, Nancy, who she famously said she did her own stunts. And anytime she talks about it, she wants to let everybody know how cold the water really was.
And that the air tank they gave her didn't fully work. And so she just had to hold her breath for that whole shot.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she almost got speared.
Yeah.
When the car windshield broke, the CJ went with her and it gave the wrong way and she almost got skewered. So she had a rough movie.
Yeah. She probably told him, I'm not being in any more of your movies. I'm done. This was it. All right. I know I'm going to ask this question. Anybody else in the cast we want to talk about? Once again, I've covered more than we needed to talk about.
No, I think you've covered pretty much everybody. I will say I don't know who they are, but I love the two boys that were part of the kid group.
Yeah.
When they're when they're hiding under the bed when Jason's attacking, and the one looks at the other and goes, "So, what were you going to be when you grew up?"
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of my favorite scenes. That was, good comedy, little lifting moment there. All right, let's talk about iconic scenes. So if someone said Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, what's the first scene that pops in your head, Charlie?
The first scene is him getting struck by lightning and actually waking up. That sets off the next, 17 movies or whatever we're at now. As to Jason. Plus, it's just iconic, him, crawling out of the hole, and he gets the mask, and that's the first thing that pops into my mind.
Yeah, other than the resurrection, because this of course gave us zombie Jason, which I always have to tell people he was human in the first 4 movies.
Right.
This is when we finally get the Jason that most people think of. But I think other than that, honestly, it's the paintballers. I always there's 2. It's the paintballers and it's the RV.
Yeah,
those
RV.
are the 2. Yeah, those are the 2 scenes that I think of first when I'm thinking of this movie. But yeah, because the 3-headed decapitation, the smiley face in the tree, Which people always joke about. I'm like, look, clearly that smiley face was already there. Jason just happened to slam the guy's face into a pre-existing smiley face. It didn't create the smiley face.
No.
But then also the RV scene with pushing the girl's head through the wall and making the imprint, and of course the iconic shot of him standing on top of it while it's on fire.
That's what that's the scene that I think about, like that. It's kind of like that one, and the same when Jason puts on the mask with his head turned and then he turns around and faces the camera. Like those are the two scenes that I would now think of for the movie. So I don't know about favorite scenes. Usually with these we have like favorite kills. So which I know we've kind of talked about some already, but favorite scenes, favorite kills, whichever ones you want to throw out there.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know. It's not necessarily a kill, but just the final chase I really, really like when Jason busts through the doors twice, big explosion. We get to see raw power. So that whole like final chase scene is good. And I really like, if you want to count Jason as a kill, Jason's kind of sort of death is good. Like the one thing I like about this movie is that Tommy and Megan make good choices. They're not just screaming, "Oh, help me, save me," but they're actually like, "Oh, okay, let's plan A, plan B. Let's go to those, point A to point B as well." Jason's, quote unquote death is one of my favorites because it makes sense. It is logical as logical can be in this movie. And so it's also just super creative, and the stunts that they had to go through to actually pull it off.
So would you consider it a good decision, the fact that Megan falls in love with a dude that she's never met as he's being arrested by her father?
That's just 80s movie logic right there. Always got to go for the bad boy.
I love how they want to cram their relationship in our face. The whole time I'm just going like, there's no relationship here.
Right.
Like there's she's infatuated with him. That's about all there is to it.
Well, earlier in the movie, Martin broke the fourth wall, so I think she mentally broke the fourth wall and was like, "If I don't go with him, we don't kill Jason." So she had to do it.
I think the scene where she screams "Tommy" like from the shore with the kids or whatever, like that was like, what are you screaming for? You don't know this guy. Like,
like you met this guy earlier in the day.
Right. And one of the few Friday the 13th movies that actually happens on Friday the 13th. So that was, they were wise to put that in the script.
And other than the opening of the first movie, it's the first one to actually have kids at the camp.
Yeah. And I'm glad that like they're still safe. Like none of them were actually, harmed in the movie. They were scared, which I think, added good elements.
I have to admit, I am partial to Sissy getting her head spun around. Like that's just it's a cool one. I mean, it's like the famous Jason head squeeze, which I know he does to another guy later in the movie.
Yeah,
but that's an iconic Jason kill. It's the head squeeze. So kind of doing a variation on it where he just turns the head a full 180.
I will say this one had some good imaginative kills, like the machete through the two. Were they on a motorcycle?
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one though.
Okay, but
it's just.
But then the 3 decapitations at once was cool. I did like the scene, and it's so cliched now, but like when Jason has a standoff with the sheriff, and the sheriff of course shoots him like 3 times with a shotgun. Of course it doesn't. He falls down, he jumps back up, falls down, and then he's shooting him with the gun, which I think have the handgun. McLoughlin was never happy with the effect of Jason getting shot between the eyes by the sheriff. He said there were so many holes in the mask you couldn't see it anyway. And I was like, you couldn't tell where he actually got shot. So I was surprised they kind of kept that one in. But
the sheriff's death is pretty cool too, where he bends him, folds him backwards.
What a way to go.
Yeah. I'll tell you, the sheriff is probably my least favorite character, as well as probably the character I respect the most in that one, to be honest.
Right.
he makes some horrible decisions along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Especially the fact that he aims his rifle or shotgun directly at his daughter after the high-speed chase.
Mm-hmm.
But then he does take on Jason at the end in order to order to save them.
Right.
He sacrifices himself, and he does for a minute takes down Jason and beating Jason up, and then Jason just, all right, enough of this, and just folds him up.
Yeah, I did like kind of the Jaws element of the sense of like him trying to be like, the town's got to be safe. They don't even know anything about Jason. Like the kids were all told it was a fairy tale. It wasn't real.
How?
Yeah.
How? Because if you follow the actual path, there's only been like 5 or 6 years since the first movie. The events of it's only been a year since, obviously the 5th movie. So and I don't buy that it was all in Tommy's imagination. So even if that had happened, the fact that there's a guy who was dressed like Jason who committed these murders, but the fact that even the original movie's events had only happened like 5 or 6 years, how in the world has everybody just forgotten about it?
Mm-hmm.
And clearly they haven't forgotten about it, because Sissy is playing a game in which she makes the Jack Jason, and it's a matter of you got to find out which cabin Jason's in. So clearly they do know who Jason Voorhees is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I kind of had a problem with that logic behind the movie.
Yeah, look at Tommy Jarvis and say, well, okay, well, if the last movie 5, he's what, 17, 18, I would guess. But in 4, Corey Feldman, he's at most 13. So there's some continuity issues there with Tommy, and maybe they were trying to be like, oh yeah, well, Tommy's 10 years older, it seems like, so now we can put this movie 10 years in the, I don't know. I think they were trying to do too much, and it messed up the story, or the timing of the story.
But I did like that he was, he was kind of the antagonist in the sense of him thinking that Tommy was the one that was doing the killing, because
he's the adult in an 80s movie.
Yeah. I'll take a play from Laramy's podcast. So, which character would you like to see return, and which character did you wish died earlier in the movie?
I honestly wish they kept going with Tommy Jarvis, to be honest. The same way that you have Laurie in Halloween, you have Nancy in Nightmare on Elm Street. I know they weren't in all the movies.
Right.
But
that's the central, that's like becomes a central character. Yeah.
And I mean, we have Tommy in 3 movies, but at least have brought Tommy back for another movie later, even if you were just going to bring him back to kill him, like they did with Nancy in 3. They brought her back for Freddy to kill her, or Michael finally did kill Laurie in one of the much later Halloween movies, although they then acted like that never happened and started all over. But I really wish I would much have rather preferred Tommy Jarvis come back than to have a telekinetic teenager in the next movie. But that one for me, I would say I'm totally fine with the deputy with the giant laser on his gun.
Yeah.
I could do without that,
That was the most 80s part of this movie, was his, laser gun. You're like 4 inches from the guy's face, and like you need the laser to know where it's going to go. Yeah.
Well, I even find it funny when they turn it on him and Megan is aimed it at him and Tommy's behind. And I'm going, Tommy, you do realize if she shoots, you're dead too. Like she's only, like you said, she's only 4 feet from this dude. If she were to actually pull the trigger, your head is directly behind him. So y'all are both gone.
Right.
But I could do without the stereotypical, Mr. Machismo deputy there.
What about you, Charlie?
Yeah, I agree. Tommy needs to come back, or needed to come back, because part 7 is basically Carrie versus Jason. And we've already seen a Carrie movie. We had Jason versus Freddy. So the telekinetic, I guess they were trying to do that because now Jason is supernatural. So instead of being grounded, let's do the supernatural stuff.
We need the supernatural, yeah.
So definitely Tommy. Continue that story. Bring back, just make it I guess this was the final film in the Tommy Jarvis trilogy, but another trilogy where it's, Tommy versus Jason, and Tommy keeps winning, but Jason keeps coming back. And then, I don't know, I think you could have done a lot more than just, psychic powers for a girl. At least make it, you can still keep the same formula, have Jason running around killing people, and Tommy's always one step behind. But I think that would have been a much better direction to go to than
or even do like they did with the Child's Play movies. Eventually with the series, they brought Andy back to be someone who kind of helps the new kids that are fighting Chucky. They brought him back as to kind of be like the, hey, I've dealt with this before, let me help you. So I think if they could have done, okay, maybe the next movie with the telekinetic girl, which I did hear was supposed to be because it was meant to be a Freddy versus Jason movie, and that fell through, and so it was a modification of that script, which makes a little bit of sense, but maybe have, in Takes Manhattan or Jason Goes to Hell or something, have Tommy show back up to help the new protagonists, the new heroes of the story. I think they really wasted, because as much as the next three movies are good because they gave us Kane Hodder, the actual movies themselves, like this was this was kind of the last good one, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, this one had a story, whereas the original, first 2 or 3 were just Jason running around killing people. This one had a legitimate story that you could follow and get behind, and is Tom guy not? So this movie is far superior. And then when we get to 7, 8, and 9, it has a story. It's just awful.
And now these messages.
This episode is brought to you by Coffee Mate. Coffee Mate is the world's biggest coffee lover because we love all the ways you enjoy. Wait. Coffee Mate can't love coffee more than me. I'm a foodie. I went to Kyoto just for a nitro matcha latte. What? Oh, I have to finish the ad. Coffee Mate, for the love of coffee.
Hey, Realtors. On your way to a listing presentation, Zillow Showcase helps you stand out with sellers by putting their listing and your brand in the spotlight on Zillow. With Zillow Showcase, your listings can get prioritized placement, astonishing performance, and exclusivity. Showcase is designed to not exceed 10% of listings in a market. Don't wait to give your business the premium marketing and branding treatment it deserves. Visit showingtimeplus.com/Spotify to get started with Zillow Showcase.
What seems to be the problem, pal?
There's just so much pain in the world, so many issues. I don't think I can bear it.
Well, friendo, it sounds like you could use a dose of pop culture roulette.
Pop culture roulette? What's that? Some sort of pop culture themed podcast or something?
That's right, sonny boy. When hope seems far, dive into some PCR.
But I already get my entertainment news from Variety.
Huh, that's pretty good. If you're a chucklehead, PCR gives you news you need, condensed, unfiltered, and raw, from 3 nerds who know a little something about something.
Wow, okay, sign me up.
That's the spirit. Pop Culture Roulette. New episodes every Monday, available on all major podcast directories.
All right, let's jump into some scenes and trivia and start to wrap it up. I mentioned before the cheeky James Bond nod was meant to set the tone for the film. The director said it was something that was going to be not just another Jason movie, but a kind of homage to the other slasher films, as well as a kind of satirization of them all at the same time. I just thought it was funny. And I guess because Bond was still pretty popular at that time too, so it made sense.
Yeah, this would have been Timothy Dalton Bond, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because I think, wouldn't he have already taken over by this point? Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I think Moore was pretty much like, I think 84 Might have been his last one. Yeah, amazingly, I've yet to do a Bond movie on the podcast. I'm getting there, I promise. The floating MX card was an intended bit meant to get the audience to respond, "Don't leave home without it." So another very 80s moment.
Although they could not actually use American Express.
Yes.
It says American. It says American Excess.
Yes,
is what it says.
Yeah. You could tell it was a fake card as well. This is the first film in which Jason doesn't run; he speed walks.
Love it.
Yep.
Again, this is the Jason that people think of.
Yeah, exactly.
When they think of Jason, this is the Jason people think of.
This is also the shortest Friday the 13th movie at 86 minutes total,
and man, they pack it in.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. The pacing is great.
Yeah. I mean, I will say the engaged couple, that scene, and maybe even with the graveyard it seemed like it puts a little bit of a pause to the story, because it does feel so wedged in like it really was. But no, this movie does not stop, which is one of the reasons why it's so great.
All right, so it also contains numerous references to other horror films or people connected with them. Megan mentions Cunningham Road, a reference to Sean S. Cunningham, director of the original Friday the 13th and creator of the series, while Tommy mentions a grocery store called Karloff's, an homage to famous horror actor Boris Karloff.
Which is a building still standing here in Covington.
Oh, nice.
Yep.
And then Sheriff Garris mentions a town called Carpenter, a reference to filmmaker John Carpenter, director of Halloween, while the name Sissy is perhaps a reference to Sissy Spacek, who starred in Brian De Palma's Carrie in 1976, which is based on the novel by Stephen King. Also, Sissy wears a jacket with the name Baker on the back, possibly a reference to Angela Baker from Sleepaway Camp, or special effects master Rick Baker.
Rick Baker, yeah.
Which I think is probably more likely. Sleepaway Camp was not as well known, I don't think. Director Tom McLoughlin took home props from the film, including Jason's tombstone, which sits outside his house, made to look like Jason is buried in his yard, and his casket, which sits in his garage. The DVD box set includes a scene in which he shows off these props at his home and tells of how a city employee refused to enter his yard to read the meter because they thought a body was really buried there.
That's funny. By the way, I know that the little girl, the one that Jason actually doesn't kill.
Yeah.
I know that she is named Nancy because of the director's wife.
Yeah.
But I refuse to actually believe that. I believe she was named Nancy after Nightmare on Elm Street, because Nightmare on Elm Street had just come out.
Yeah.
And the fact that the first time we really see Nancy is she is startled awake by Jason. And so, you can't tell me there's not a connection there. So I refuse
I did see
to
that
believe
one. Yeah.
She's not based on Nancy.
All right, box office and critical reception. Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives.
This makes me sad. I'm just going to go ahead and say that.
Was released on Friday, August 1st, 1986, and was the first in the franchise not to debut at number 1 at the box office. Yeah. Aliens remained at number 1 for the third week. Jason Lives took the number 2 spot, beating other new releases. Howard the Duck at number 3, Nothing in Common with Tom Hanks and Jackie Gleason at number 8, and Flight of the Navigator debuted at number 9.
Yeah, I respect that Aliens beat it. So I get that, and I know you're probably about to get to this. The fact that it was the worst in terms of box office of the movies so far, of the Friday the 13th movies, so it just makes me sad.
Yeah, if you're not going to get the number 1 spot over the weekend, at least Aliens. But like you said, overall box office, for it to be last and others to be in front of it, just that doesn't sit well with me.
Especially 5.
Yeah. I think it might, and this was the first one to take 2 years before. I think every other one had come out exactly a year later. So this one they actually pushed back by a year. But I think they did that some to kind of hopefully people forget how bad 5 was. But I think there were still some disgruntled people. They're like, I'm not going to pay to see it if it's going to be as bad as the last one. So, but it did keep the franchise going, at least. Critical reception, Rotten Tomatoes. I've never seen this. 53% on the tomato meter and a 53% audience score. So critics and audiences agreed it was right in the middle. IMDb has 6 out of 10 with viewers and a 30 on Metacritic. So where does it sit with you on a scale of 1 to 10?
10. 13. That's what I should have gone with.
A solid. As far as Jason movies, it's a solid 9. In general, it's a 6 or 7. It's not one that you're bored one night, so you watch it. It is definitely a Halloween movie, so maybe you watch it during Halloween or
on a Friday the 13th.
On a Friday the 13th, yeah.
Exactly. That's when you. This isn't a regular Friday or Saturday night movie. This is a special movie.
I got 2 questions for you, Charlie. So, number 1, which Friday the 13th movie do you put over this?
3.
Really? Okay.
I don't like all the 3D that's in 3.
Yeah.
That kind of takes me out of the movie a little bit. But I think 3 is the best Jason. I think 3 is the best Mask because that's when he gets it. I think 3 is the best look, where he's just got like a button up and some jeans, but that I don't know. It's tough to. I think 3 was also the first one I saw from like start to finish, so that might subconsciously be one of the reasons. But I would put 3 over it.
All right, second question: what slasher movie would you just up and watch randomly on a weeknight?
Halloween. Halloween's my favorite horror movie, and in the top 10. So yeah, I would put Halloween. I would watch Halloween any day of the week.
Okay, just curious.
Yeah,
it's weird. Cool. I know.
No. It's not weird at all. Yeah, not weird at all. To me, this is the best Friday the 13th. So I wouldn't. Again, I have nothing against 3. It's still better than 5. But I don't know if there's another Friday the 13th I would put above this one. And you know what? And to your other point, again, I have small children, so I'm not really able to just put it. But to be honest, just about every slasher movie, Halloween, Nightmare on Elm Street, Friday the 13th, I don't care. I would just put them on and watch them for fun. So
yeah. Oh yeah. And now that I think about it, I would absolutely add Alien. The original Alien is up there too. Yeah. And I think that's why the first couple Fridays are really good, is because they remind me of Alien. They're suspenseful. You don't see Jason all that much. You don't see the kills all that much. They're like super zoomed in, so you know what's happening, but you can't see any detail. And I think that just, plays into your imagination of what's actually happening. So by no means are they perfect. But I think the Friday, the part 2 and 3 of Friday are, in my opinion, reminiscent of the original Alien.
And I would say I don't think this movie really does sit as well in favoritism for me and maybe many others, because this movie couldn't exist in the way it does if it wasn't for those previous Friday the 13th movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because this is where it's becoming self-aware.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not, and again, as good as the first couple, I would actually start to say, the first couple of Friday the 13th movies are, and this is where I think 3 falters a little bit. They take themselves way too seriously. And I think the fact that 3 did have that 3D gimmick, but then still trying to take itself so seriously, is where that one falters a little bit. But the fact that this one just embraced the meta style, which I do know that when Sean Cunningham and Wes Craven and all them came back to do Scream, that it was actually this movie that kind of inspired some of the ideas behind Scream, of that meta aspect of it. Because you got the character, the director's wife, who's with Goldwyn, excuse me. You got her saying, I've seen enough horror movies to know that the guy in the mask means I should be going the other direction.
Right. Yeah, Kevin Williamson, who wrote Scream,
I was trying to think of his name.
Yeah, has said that that this was a huge influence on him, and it helped him inspire him to write Scream. So yeah, definitely. All right, gentlemen, I appreciate you guys being here for this one. And if you're ready for part 7, you don't have to wait very long because the next Friday the 13th is in December. So we're going to take a break from jolly old St. Nicholas and talk about Jason in the middle of
wonderful time of the year,
December. Yeah. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Laramy, for joining me today. Laramy, anything exciting on your podcast going to be happening around the 13th of
Well, we just started year 5 on moving panels. I always start on Labor Day. So right here in September, we've just started year 5, and there's some exciting changes that are coming with a format change it's going to be a work in progress, but you'll start hearing a little bit of changes. We got a new theme song, but with since we're talking about scary stuff with Halloween coming around the corner, going to do more on the lighthearted side of that. Ruby, my daughter, and I are going to review Coraline, which is based off of a Neil Gaiman work. And then for our big Halloween episode, we are tackling the Marvel special presentation of Werewolf by Night. So that one's going to be fun as well. So if you are a horror, scary movie fan, you might want to check those out.
Very cool. Definitely do it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's a wrap on this episode of the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. If you enjoyed listening to us, we would greatly appreciate it if you'd take a moment and share your feedback and give us a shiny 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts. Don't forget to hit the follow, subscribe button and help us spread the word to all your fellow 80s Flick loving friends and family. If you have any questions or want to chat about your favorite scenes, you can reach us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. You can also show your love and support for the show at buymeacoffee.com. Be sure to visit our online store at 80sflickflashback.com and tpublic.com for some awesome 80s Flick Flashback gear and original 80s inspired designs. Thanks again for tuning in. This is Tim Williams for the 80s Flick Flashback Podcast. You know what I think? I think we're dead meat. Real dead meat.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.